Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Green Team of the Legendarium. We're a little spin off podcast from the Legendarium that focuses on science fiction and fantasy books and movies and related topics. I'm your host, BefuddledPanda, and today I have with me a very special guest. He is a British Emmy award winning television writer, Sunday Times best-selling novelist, and an award-winning TV director. He is best known as the co-creator with Rob Grant of the iconic sci-fi sitcom Red Dwarf, for which he wrote or co-wrote all 74 episodes. Our guest was one of the two head writers at Spitting Image during the series' heyday and co-penned the number one single, The Chicken Song, for which apparently you're not yet forgiven?
That's absolutely right and fair, yes.
He is also the author or co-author of three best-selling Red Dwarf novels. Welcome to the podcast, Doug Naylor.
Hi, Panda. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you taking your time to join us. And as I have just read, you have quite an impressive bio, but you're actually not on our podcast because of all of that, or at least not just because of all of that. You've now written a middle grade fantasy book called Sinbin Island, which releases September 11th in the UK.
Correct. Yes, it's true.
And not being based in the UK myself, I do have to ask, will we be getting a release elsewhere in the world?
I'm sure there'll be one where are you, in America?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be one there in time. I did an AMA yesterday, and there were a lot of folks from America came and were involved in the AMA. They're buying it from Amazon UK. So it's possible to buy it from Amazon UK, but you've got all to pay for the postage and all that. But I'm sure at some point it will be in America. Yeah, sure.
Okay, beautiful. And out of curiosity, where was this AMA hosted?
It was Reddit. It was Reddit.
Oh, Reddit. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah. So my son did all the typing for I think was it 4.5 hours.
Oh,
And
wow.
there were still hundreds of questions at the end. We just didn't get time for. I had
Yes.
to leave in the end because I was going to a play. Uh, but yeah, so it was 4.5 hours of questions. Yeah.
Well, I'll go find the link and I will put it in our show notes so that our
Oh,
listeners can
okay.
also
Sure.
check
Sure.
that out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah, no problem. All right. Before we chat about your new book, Sinbin Island, which fun title, we'd like to get to know you a bit more first. So in our conversation, we'll be focusing mainly on writing and storytelling.
Sure.
So, as we are a science fiction and fantasy focused podcast, and you've written some science fiction and fantasy yourself, I'm curious how your relationship with science fiction and fantasy got started.
I used to read science fiction novels, Stochastic Man, Heinlein, Asimov, Arthur C. Clarke as a kid, and loved all those kind of incredible worlds. So I was always, a favorite genre. And science fiction was really quite frowned upon in the UK in terms of television. And I used to write with a guy called Rob Grant. It was a time when we were writing for radio, and we'd spoken about, hey, it would be fun to write a science fiction sketch at some point. And we decided, okay, let's do it now. We've spoken about we're going to do this, let's do it now. And so we did this little feature, which was basically about the last surviving member on a spaceship and their computer. And it was a comedy sketch show. And the sketch lasted about 4 or 5 minutes, but it was a relationship about a computer and a guy. And then we did 4 or 5 of these for this particular series over a couple of years. And then when we came to sit down to write our own sitcom, we were kicking ideas about, and we said, why don't we develop that idea? And that's basically what happened. We went, okay, let's have one guy, but he's the last human. Let's have a computer. We need some other characters. What will the other characters be? We don't want them to be human, and we don't want any aliens on it, because all science fiction shows have aliens, and we didn't want our show to turn into you land on a particular planet and you meet the particular alien and then you move on to we didn't want that format. We felt if we didn't have aliens, it would be more like Silent Running. There would be a real kind of loneliness to it, and that would help us and force us to write a character-based comedy. So we didn't want any aliens. That was one of the rules. Rob at that point didn't want any robots either. So it was like no aliens, no robots. What's left? So then we came up with the idea of there could be a character who was a hologram,
Uh-huh.
and the hologram could be someone who was formerly alive but now dead. So that turned into Rimmer. And then at that point, we wanted one more character, and we came up with the idea of a life form that had evolved from cats, blah, blah, blah. And that gave us the four characters we started with in that first season, later to be joined by Crichton, who was a kind of robot. So that was really the background to it.
Love it. I have to admit, in preparation for our chat today, prior, I had not watched any episodes of Red Dwarf. And since then, I have watched 3 episodes of the first season, and it is
Okay.
fun.
Okay. It evolves so much. I can't tell you. It doesn't stay like that. It evolves so much, and really kicks off for me when we get into season 3 and
Okay,
Crichton joins the crew. But anyway,
good to know.
no,
Yeah,
there's
because
some really funny shows in season 2 as well.
it's a pretty long-running show.
Yeah, well, overall, because it was all stop and start, it's not like
Mm,
in the States where you just do long seasons of 24 or 12 or
right,
whatever. We do 6. So the first show started in 1988, and the last show we did was in 2019,
right.
but with the exact same cast.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I do have to ask, Frankenstein.
Hmm.
Why make Frankenstein a cat, not like a lizard or a newt or something? What was it about a cat that drew you to it?
It was the idea. Well, the backstory was um, Lister went on a bachelor party kind of stag night thing in London,
Okay.
and had too much to drink. Went out, had a blackout in London on this pub crawl. It was a Monopoly board
Mm-hmm.
pub crawl, and then he woke up on the planet Mimas, and basically he came out of the luggage rack, for suitcases, and how he got there he couldn't, and he didn't have any money, and he didn't have any papers, and this cat sort of adopted him and followed him around, and he kind of smuggled it on board
Right.
Red Dwarf, which was a ship he thought was going back to Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, it was going back to Earth, but first of all, it was on an 18-month journey to
Right.
go do various things. So therefore, he'd smuggled this cat on board, and he then they found a photograph of him with a cat, and he got 18 months in stasis, which was suspended
Right.
animation if he didn't hand over the cat, and the cat evolved into this whole species, all of whom left Red Dwarf apart from one guy. And so that was why it was a cat. It could have
Okay.
been lizard people, I guess. You could have been lizard people, but
Not as cuddly.
not as cuddly. You're not likely to smuggle them on board the ship if it's a lizard, I would think. But maybe.
Understood. Okay. So, as your bio shows, you're a pretty versatile storyteller, going from TV scripts to radio shows to songs, which is it correct that you were musically trained? You went to school for music at one point?
I did actually go to a very, very good music school, although I have no musical talent whatsoever. Um, I went to this school 2 years before it became a specialist music school, and all the
Okay.
kids who had been there originally were allowed to stay. But then
Uh,
all these brilliant kids came in, brilliant musicians, and I used to play the recorder.
uh-huh.
Um, Not very well, but we had a music teacher who used to point at you if you were playing flat or sharp, and would force you to play on your own.
Oh
So
no.
yeah, terrible, terrifying. So what I used to do, because I was sitting with about 7 or 8 other recorder players, I would stuff tissues in my recorder so I made no sound at all, and I never got picked on, and everyone else was
Wow.
good, so it was cool. But then he was so pleased with this recorder section, me included, he wasn't making any noise at all. So we all got promoted to the piccolo, and of course I was in even worse situation. So I did the whole thing again, stuffed tissues in my piccolo. We all got promoted to the flute, and then I got caught, unfortunately, and had
That's
to
amazing.
give up my music career. Yes. It was short and not very glorious.
Oh, wow. It's,
Yeah, yeah,
that's amazing. Thank you so
yeah.
much for sharing that
No,
story.
not at all. Not at all. So yeah, that came about because I had this crazy idea to write a number one hit. So I
Mhm.
actually came in, sat down opposite my writing partner Rob at the time, and said, "Let's write a number one single." We were working for this puppet show that was really quite controversial and edgy, and we were in the
Uh-huh.
newspapers all the time. And I said, if we could write something, because it was coming up for summer, if we could write a summer hit, this could go to number one.
Yeah.
And so there was a thing called Agadoo. This band did these really annoyingly catchy summer hits. And I said, if we did a parody of that and basically said, although you hate this song, it'll be really catchy and drive you crazy. And that
Right.
was basically what the lyric was. So we wrote it. It was quite surreal lyrics.
Yeah.
So we wrote it in 5 minutes.
Oh
Um,
my.
and then I was convinced it was going to go to number one. The guy who was writing the music provided the music 2, 3 days later. And I didn't think it was annoying enough. But then as I drove home that night, I couldn't get this song out of my
Oh,
head.
wow.
And then sure enough, it went to straight in at number one for 3 weeks, which was a huge big deal at the time. I mean, with massive bands, Madonna was below us, Peter Gabriel, all sorts. Yeah. So it was king. We were kings for a day. It was great.
That's wonderful. That's one of those, like, trivia nuggets.
Mm.
The moment that you get to pull that little nugget
Yeah,
out at trivia.
exactly. I know. I know. I know.
Okay, so going back to storytelling,
Mm.
so you did TV, radio, song, books. Can you tell us more about how your experience was writing for these different mediums and perhaps like how you've adapted your storytelling methods and creativity to the different mediums?
Well, how I started was it was writing sketches,
Mhm.
comedy sketches for at first radio and then TV. But as we wrote comedy sketches, people would ask us to write a sitcom. So we wrote a couple of sitcoms for radio. So that was a
Okay.
great kind of practice ground. We were kind of we were told to write this sketch show for this comedian called Tom Menard. So we did 2 seasons of that, and then another guy came in called Tony Brandon. We were asked to write a sitcom for him, and we did that. So that was great experience, just in terms of learning how to do stories and the importance of stories, and sometimes how you could get away with writing very little story,
Mm,
um, blah blah blah. Then when it came to Red Dwarf, what we wanted to do with Red Dwarf, we wanted to kind of use science fiction tropes as a way of creating original stories to examine character. So in that first season of Red Dwarf, we've got hallucinations becoming 3D. Uh, you can't do that in a regular kind of office situation.
right.
We go to a planet where time goes backwards, and we examine. So all these kind of science fiction ideas gave us a completely fresh and original kind of place to go for the comedy. So it was really exciting.
And so, what were some lessons learned or challenges that you had along the way when you're switching from writing, say, like a TV script to a book or from radio to, yeah.
I mean, the thing about when we wrote for radio and TV, it was always for audiences.
Hmm.
So you would know if the thing wasn't working because the audience wouldn't laugh.
Yeah.
And you were always very aware of that. So you didn't ever want that to happen. So
Hmm.
you were very, right, where's the left line? Where's the left line? Where's the left line? Of course, with a novel, you've got more time. And then we wrote, we'd shot the first 2 seasons of Red Dwarf. And that was then when we wrote the first Red Dwarf novel, which we wrote in the same way that we wrote the TV series, in as far as we would agree every line before it went down. Um, but because of that, and because it's a novel, and because there are no budget restrictions, we can be anywhere and do anything. No one's
Right.
going, oh, we can't afford this. Oh, no, we haven't got that set. We were able to expand the world.
Mm.
And a lot of people, certainly a lot of people at Comic Cons, say that the Red Dwarf novels are their favorite things because it
Oh,
was a
okay.
bigger, more expansive world. And it could be as we really saw it, as opposed to what it had to be shrunk down to. for TV. But having said that, our cast, the guys that we've been working with since 1988, are absolutely wonderful. And it's because of that chemistry, I think. A huge amount is to do with that that's made it successful.
Yeah, speaking of the cast, so writing for actors, the actors will have opinions of the characters that they're playing, and they may help you shape that character over time. But writing a book, there's less of that. There's your editor, your publisher could have some feedback. For the most part, though, it's just you and the characters you create. Does that make writing the characters easier or harder? How do you adapt from one to the other?
Well, it's really interesting. Certainly, and it's we went through our career. We never got notes from anyone. So we'd write a script and then we'd shoot it and do it. And we'd write a sketch, we'd shoot it and do it. No one ever said, "Oh, could you tweak this?" It was
Uh-huh.
what we wrote was short. So then, when we came to rehearse Red Dwarf the first season, the producer at the time got half a line. He was going to give us a no, and his no, I correctly anticipated, was, "I think we need more laughs in the show." And he
Okay.
said, "I think we need," and I went, "More laughs in the show." And he went, "Yes, exactly." And I went, "I totally agree." Um, but that was the nearest to it. And so the very first season that we rehearsed, we didn't shoot anything because there was an electrician strike at the end of each show.
Okay.
So each show was abandoned but rehearsed. And as a consequence of that, we rehearsed each show and we got to know how the actors were doing it. And then we got to know the actors as people and realized they were actually quite like their characters. And so it became, I mean, there was a famous story about Craig Charles, who plays Lister, who on one of the first mornings, we were having breakfast in the canteen, and he picked up a bottle of ketchup. He squirted it onto the Formica table. He stole a sausage off Danny John Jules' plate. He plays the cat, dunked it into the ketchup,
Oh
took a
my.
chunk of this sausage and said, "I'm really worried I might get typecast playing this slob Lister." And we thought, you could not make that up. That's Lister right there. What are you talking about? You don't really get typecast. We'll use that. We'll use that. And we were able, I mean, he isn't the slob as it turns out. But that was, but because of that, they were able to just make the characters more, give them more dimensions. And then when, of course, when we came to write the novels, because we'd worked with the characters, we kind of had a very clear idea of who they were.
Mhm.
And so it wasn't really a big jump.
Okay, okay. So it sounds like, at least based on what you've said so far, like your driving story element for your storytelling seems to be characters. Would that be fair to say, or um
Oh, I see. Often, um, I mean, the thing is, Red Dwarf came out of a situation of, let's write about the last human
mhm,
alive in the universe on this spaceship. How does he get to be the last human? He gets to be the last human because he gets put in suspended animation and he doesn't get out for 3 million years. Oh, okay, that makes sense. Who's with him because he can't be on his own? Oh, you could have a hologram, you could have a robot, you could have a computer, you could have a guy who's evolved from cats. So that all kind of works. Now you go, do they all get on? No, of course they can't all get on. No.
yeah.
So what would be the funniest kind of situation? Well, the funniest situation would be if it was a guy right at the bottom of the ship with no power who was just a chicken soup repairman, and he gets to be basically captain of this ship at the end of the pilot. So it's like, okay, and who could this hologram be? Well, he could be his boss, who's really annoying. But then why would he be brought back? He would be brought back by the computer, who's senile, to keep him sane, to annoy him and get him out of bed in the morning, and blah blah blah. So all those character ideas, if you like, are coming out of a situation logically to, how do we explain this situation? The characters have, they don't have to be that, but being that answers the question, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. So a lot of your writing seems to have been very collaborative. So when you sat down to write, your new book, is it's just you, the writer?
Yeah, I mean, we broke up. Rob and I broke up in 1993, so it's been quite a long time
Oh,
we've been
quite a
together.
while.
Okay, so I
Yeah.
wrote season 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and Promised Land,
Mhm.
mostly on my own, not with Rob. And
Okay.
I wrote a novel on my own, and yeah,
Oh, I see, I see.
so
So
I'm well used to it now.
was it hard to make that initial transition going from having a collaborator to now it's just you?
Well, it was a bizarre situation. We were working on a different show, and
Uh-huh.
Rob decided he didn't want to write with me anymore. He wanted to write on his own, but we were commissioned to write this show. And then the scripts I wrote, people liked, and the shows he wrote, people didn't like.
Oh,
So
no.
he left the show, and then I'd written 3 shows in very very short space of time, and I went, hang on, who was writing the shows that Rob was supposed to write? And my agent said, you are. And I said, but that means what? Hang on, what? That means I've got to write pretty much a show a week for
Okay.
4 weeks. And he went, yeah, you'll do it. So it was birthed by fire, really.
Right.
Yeah,
Just by the necessity.
just had to, absolutely had to do it. And I
Wow.
just moved house at the same time, and I
Oh
bought a
my.
load of DVD bookshelves. Um, and they were these things that you build yourself.
Uh-huh.
And every time I couldn't get an idea, I'd build another one of these. And I got really, I had 12 in the end. I didn't need 12. It was just a way of relieving tension.
Oh, wow.
I just built another one.
Found ways to cope.
Yeah, yeah,
So, to kind of wrap up our talk about Red Dwarf a bit
yeah,
is so it started in the 80s, as you said,
yeah.
and technology has come a long way since then.
Mm.
Anything in particular that you as a sci-fi creator predicted back then that is now true or real?
Oh, well, one of the things that we predicted was that there would be space adverts like Coca-Cola would explode stars to do, Coke is life and all stuff. And that's not so far away now. There's also, oh my goodness, I wish I had the list. There's so much we predicted
Yeah.
that have come true. God, I need to remember what they are. Certainly holograms. I think our show was the first show with a hologram character in
Mm.
it. Or it's certainly first. I know Star Trek Next Gen had one, but we'd already written ours in 1985
Oh, wow, okay.
because it took 3 years to sell the show.
I see. What about anything that hasn't become real in our world that you wish were from the show?
Oh well, I love teleporting to be true.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yes, that would be so handy. Providing, but of course, it does mean that the original you is killed, doesn't it? And then yeah, a duplicate is made who's
There's that little bit.
yeah, it's just that little bit, so you actually die. But if there was a way somehow that didn't involve a death and duplication, I'd be very keen on that.
Amen.
Yeah.
My next question, what would you put on your autobibliography? As in, if people want to get to know you more, perhaps know more about the media that have influenced you as a person, shaped who you are, your humor, what would you point them to?
Um, there were two chief sitcoms that we used to watch. One was Faulty Towers,
Oh, love
John
it.
Cleese, and the other one was Porridge, which was Ronnie Barker in a prison situation, and we loved both of those. And we also loved all those early Woody Allen films, especially Sleeper, Love and Death. Huge fan of those. So those were, and then when we were in radio, there was a show that they were doing called The American Way of Laughs, and they had about 100 American stand-up albums because they were compiling bits and pieces for this huge, great American comedy series. And I used to regularly go in and just listen to the albums, and I didn't know many of the people who they were at the time. It's like, oh, Steve Martin. Who's Steve Martin? I don't know Steve Martin, but listen to Steve Martin stand-up going, Rob, you've got to listen to this. It's amazing. There's so much. It was incredible education, all for free. Amazing.
Wow. What about so you mentioned from, like, books, the
Mm,
Asimov and Heinlein.
mm.
Did you You didn't have formal training as a writer, or did you?
No, no. And there was nowhere really to go. There was a sort of feeling that if you I did psychology at university
Okay, me
and it
too.
was yeah, oh right, okay, but the I didn't survive because it was all maths. It was chi-squared tests and all sorts. I couldn't cope. And along with the third of the year, we all got kicked out.
Okay.
And as I got kicked out, my professor said to me, "What are you good at? You know, I'm kicking you out because you're not really here, are you, ever?" And I went, "No, I've been writing this sitcom." And he went, "Do something that you're good at. You'll be much, much happier. And you'll never be good at this because you don't love it." And it was like the best advice,
Great
career advice
advice.
I've ever had. So that's kind of, pointed me in the right direction.
Right. So it's kind of just your innate
Oh, so
passion
so
and
so sorry, to finish the question, to answer the question, I went home and my parents were, not best pleased that I'd been kicked out of university. I
sure.
was the first of our family to get there. And I explained, I discovered I knew what I wanted to do. We'd written
Uh-huh.
this sitcom. We sent it to BBC TV. BBC TV had rejected it, but they said we wrote mildly amusing dialogue, which I pounced on. Going, this is amazing. This really gave us so much confidence. It was like, oh, okay. And this was going to be the start of something big. And my dad said, no, go and resit your psychology year and get a qualification behind it. So I went off to Manchester. It was called Manchester Polytechnic to resit my
Okay.
psychology. Went there for 2 weeks and realised it was just the same as going to Liverpool University. So, from my parents' point of view, I would pretend to go in to college and in the
Oh,
meantime go to Manchester's Central Library, where there was a huge section on media, writing for television, or screenplays rather, uh,
yeah.
and all that sort of. And I would sit there and read the books, and then if I was in a good mood, I would allow myself to go and watch a Woody Allen film, and then I would go home having pretended I'd been at college all day. And this was fine until the final exams came up, when, of
Uh-huh.
course, I couldn't possibly go in and take them. I'd be too embarrassed, let alone not being able to do them. So I then had to fess up and go, I haven't been in. So then my dad said, look, you've got to get a job. If you want to be a comedy writer, get a job, get your own place, and
Uh-huh.
then do what you need to do. So that was the education. It was I, I taught myself.
Yeah, you created your own curriculum.
Because there was
Yeah.
nothing, there was no YouTube then. There was one book
Right.
that I could find called Writing for Television by Malcolm Hulke.
Okay.
And one of the things that if you want to establish a characteristic, do the same characteristic 3 times. So if you want to create a mean character, get him to do 3 mean things. And I used to think about this. So if you want to establish a murderer, does he have to kill 3 people? Can't you establish that with just he kills one person? That would do it for me. So it wasn't the best book, but that was the only book I could find.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and now today there's
Oh,
resources
yeah,
ubiquitous.
absolutely. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay, so a little transition, and then we'll talk about your new book. So this is the this or that section.
Okay,
So I'll basically give you two things, a prompt with two things, and then you'll just say which one you prefer. No explanation needed, unless you really, really want to give an explanation,
okay.
and we'll see what happens. All right, here we go. Coffee or tea?
That's a tough one. It would be tea only because I can't drink 12 cups of coffee a day without going hyper. Yeah.
Fair, fair. Morning or night?
Uh, Morning. Creatively or morning.
Very nice. For reading, digital or physical books or audio?
Oh, you can't say both. Probably. Oh, it depends on the book. Digital because you can carry around more.
Fair. Dragons or dinosaurs?
Oh, that is difficult. Dinosaurs.
Okay. Comedy or drama movie?
Comedy movies mostly aren't very good, so I'd probably go drama.
Beach or mountain?
Beach.
Zombies or vampires?
Vampires.
Ninjas or pirates?
Pirates.
Ooh. Guacamole or salsa?
Salsa.
Babies dressed as animals or animals dressed as humans?
Babies dressed as animals.
Passenger or driver?
Driver.
Pen or pencil?
Pen.
Calling or texting?
Calling.
Bangers and mash or fish and chips?
Fish and chips.
Free lunch or free dessert?
Free lunch.
Puppies or kitten?
Oh, what? Puppies.
And yet Frankenstein is a cat.
I know. I know.
Lake or ocean?
Lake.
Beginning or end?
Beginning.
Very nice.
Well,
Now somebody else can go and psychoanalyze that.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my god.
All right. So let's talk about your new book, Sinbin Island, where apparently detention just got dangerous. Would you like to tell our listeners what the book is about?
Yeah, it's based in an orphanage for wayward boys and girls, where at the end of the school year, the four worst behaved kids are sent to Sinbin Island with just bread and water, where they have to survive. Not all kids do survive, and some kids survive but are scarred for life.
Oh my.
There is a rumor that the island was in 200 years previously was used as a smuggling route, and there's an underground hidden tunnel where treasure was smuggled to the mainland, including magical artifacts. That's basically it. And there's a lot. I mean, it's also hopefully there's a lot of laughs on the way along the way, but it's also an action. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
We got to ask. You've likely been asked this quite a bit already, but where did this idea come from to banish kids to a dangerous island?
I think it was partly based on the school I went to, which was really they didn't actually do that, but it was founded in the 15th century. Was it 15th or 14th? So it was ancient,
Wow.
um, and it was and we had a refectory and the paving stones, and it was dark. So it was like that, and also it had incredibly eccentric teachers. So one of the teachers would regularly send kids out to buy him cigarettes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. The same teacher one time picked up some sodium and said, "Whatever you do, children, boys, you mustn't pick up sodium. It's really dangerous." And then realized what he'd done, and then tried to
Oh,
get rid of it.
no.
He then turned to the board and tried to put the chalk in his mouth, and then tried to write on the blackboard with his unfiltered cigarette. So we had characters like that. One of the
Wow.
punishments was kids had to cut the lawn with some nail scissors
Oh,
as a
no.
punishment. So that sort of mad teachers or was something I was kind of aware of and was
Yeah.
fond of wanted to write. And it's scary in parts, but also it's full of adventure, and it's also quite touching, I hope, in parts. Two girls, two boys. They come together as a team, all very different, all with big secrets about who they really are, and guilt that they're all carrying about various things. And they form a team,
Mhm.
and it's basically what happens. Yeah,
Yeah. So, like, the audience for this book, because it is a children's book, it's for I read it was, like, 9 years old and up. How was it writing for a younger audience than perhaps your more normal audience of adults?
I kind of took to it like a duck to water. I mean, I
Yeah.
wanted it to be really good.
Right.
So wanted the characters to be three-dimensional. I wanted there to be drama in it. I wanted to be action in it. There was no budget constraint, so I could do anything I wanted. I wanted it to be very funny, so I could do all that. I wanted it to be magic in it, so I could do all that, and just kind of got lost in the characters in the world, and I just
So
had
it just came naturally.
absolute blast. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And Craig Charles, who plays Lister in Red Dwarf, I sent it to him when it was finished, and he was incredibly complimentary about it, which was great because he's a fiercely intelligent guy,
Mhm.
and what he generally thinks of things is very very
That's amazing.
yeah.
What's, if anything, what has been challenging to write this book?
To make it shorter, I guess. They're very The very first version was 104,000 words
Oh,
because I
wow.
kind of thought that seemed to me what kids' books were. Scandal is a big hit over in the UK. I don't know if you get that in the US, Scandal books, but they were kind of, that sort of chunky feel. And so I thought, right, that's what I'll aim for. And then I sent it to all the publishers, and all the publishers said, no, 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 kids don't read books anymore. What? Don't they? No, no, no. They only like little thin ones. Do they? Well, what about all these bestsellers? And
Yeah,
they
I know.
said, can you make it into two books? And ultimately, the publisher David Fickling was so keen on everything, I couldn't but go with anyone else really. But what we did was I turned it into two books, but had to
Okay.
write probably an extra third on the original book to make this a whole. And I've got a lot of book two now because it's going to be a series. Um,
That's great.
yeah, so that's probably the hardest. Yeah.
Do you have an idea how the series will end or like
Oh
how
yeah,
many books there will
yeah.
be?
I mean, we've kind of got a thing because there are seven treasure chests, and the
Okay.
first book's about the first treasure chest and what's in it, which isn't necessarily what you would expect to be in it.
Okay.
So they're not just going to have, oh, here's a load of treasure. Oh, here's a load of treasure. Oh no, they'll always have, yeah, something unexpected.
Oh, lovely. This is a fantasy book.
Yeah.
What drew you to fantasy for this book series as opposed to writing a science fiction story?
Um, I think because it was a contemporary book, it needed to be contemporary book, and I think sometimes science fiction and magic share certain characteristics.
Mhm.
So there is a magical stone in the book which changes things back to a previous state.
Oh.
So, for example, it can change horse dung back into hay, okay, and other things. Okay, so that could almost be a science fiction idea. That could be a gun,
Right.
yeah, or equally, it's a magical stone. It doesn't really matter. It's what you do with that
Mhm.
that's unexpected and clever, hopefully, blah, blah, blah. So, in that sense, it wasn't a massive jump. And you're
Mhm.
always looking for where's the science fiction idea because that's the thing that takes it into a whole new area and really gets people excited. And with this, it was okay, where's the magic? What's the magic? What kind of magic is it? Is it hard magic or soft magic? Hard
Mhm.
magic being, that thing where there's got to be rules. It can't just be I've got this thing that can get us out of any fix, and it will get us out. There's got to be limitations and rules.
Yeah. Did you find, because with science fiction, and I'm sure you got a lot of this with, Red Dwarf, people will come out and be like, "That's not how the science works."
Yes.
But with magic,
Yeah.
you can kinda have your way with it.
Right. Okay. That's interesting. Yes. I mean, the only thing is, you've got to be a bit careful because if, as I said before, if you can do anything with it and there are
Uh-huh.
no restrictions, provided you've got it, you've never got any issues because whatever fix you're in, you can just get out of it.
True. The stakes.
The stakes. So it's got to, yeah, it's got to have restrictions. And I think if it does, it's cleverer.
Was it hard to, because you did mention, like, not all the kids make it. The
Yeah,
kids do die. There are some dark parts to this.
yeah.
How did you balance, like, how dark you went, for the audience that you're writing for?
I think it's the right color of grey. So I'm not saying that it's not going to be black later on, but there's no black in the first novel. It's
Okay.
it's reported kids that don't make it back.
Okay.
Um, there are, near deaths, but nothing completely fatal in this first one.
Yeah. Okay. A couple more questions from me. What are you most excited for readers to experience in this book without giving away too much?
I think the journey. I think the journey. I think it's a really good journey that has a lot of twists and turns.
Oh,
And
love it.
it's not just me who's said that. There's a mystery. There's action. There's surprises. There are twists, and hopefully a lot of laughs too. So I think definitely it's the journey.
As an adult, I still love reading children's
Yeah.
books and
Hmm.
children's literature.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just you get the emotional peaks and punches without, you know,
Yeah,
a lot of the words that require
yeah,
is required.
yeah. No, no, I think that's right. I think that's right. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot we can learn from children's literature. We tend to dismiss it. Oh, that's for children, and it's not always the case.
right.
Some of the most pleasurable stuff is kids' literature.
Yeah, we like to say books could have an age floor. So there's a minimum, potentially a maturity or experience required to
Yes,
read and
yes,
appreciate the book,
yes.
but a lot of books don't have an age ceiling.
No, that's right. I think that's right. It's when you read
Yeah,
it. Yeah, you can read it if you can read it.
right. Last question from me is what's been the most rewarding part of this whole journey writing this book and getting it out into the world?
I think it's been how it's received, and
Oh,
it's been
lovely.
wonderfully universally received. And I know that's ridiculous to say that because it's not published until Thursday. But all the people who've had advances, all the people who've read it, both adults and kids, the reaction's been absolutely, I can't even begin to tell you,
Congratulations.
phenomenal. Yeah. So I'm so excited by that. Just I want more people to read it, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, and as this being your first, children's book,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah.
I do have my copy on pre-order. I'm waiting
Oh,
for it from
fantastic. Oh,
Waterstones from the
oh,
UK.
fantastic. Thank you. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know if you enjoy
Yeah,
it.
I'm very excited to get to it. And, where else can people find you?
They can find me on Blue Cloud. They can find me on Twitter. They can find me on TikTok. Doug,
Okay. Oh, you're on the TikToks.
I'm on the TikTok. Yeah, Doug R.D. Naylor.
Awesome. We'll grab those, links and we'll put them in our show notes.
Okay.
Anything e
No, that's good. No, that's been great talking to you, Panda. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Doug. I really, really appreciate your time and congratulations on your success so far and
Thank you.
all the best for the rest.
Thank you.
I'll be looking out for the next books.
Okay. All right.
Sinbin Island by Doug Naylor releases September 11th in the UK. If you would like to know more about these kids and find out what happens to them, be sure to pick up your copy from your local bookstore. Thank you, listeners, for checking out this episode. All the links we mentioned before for Doug will be in our show notes. And until next time, goodbye.
Bye. Okay.
So don't have to worry about gussing up or
Smiling.
anything.
Okay. I won't smile throughout. Okay, fine.
Oh no, you can smile. That's my
Yeah.
benefit.
Okay. Okay.